Okay, so we've talked a lot about what graph is. We've given a few examples. And if you're just joining here, you may want to go check the previous episode or episodes for some information on that. Now we want to get more practical. And we want to talk about when you need structure, when you need graphs specifically. So I think you have like a long list of answers to this, but it often starts, right up with search.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of this question I'm kind of posing to my clients now, which is like, how far behind do you want to get in terms of search experience? The most of my clients are large enterprises. They're searching through either very large repositories, very complex information, or both. And so in the previous episode, we talked about like what is becoming the norm in search. Like if I put in one term and that term has 3 different meanings, show me the relationships to those meanings so I can pre-select and I can refine my search even before I finished my query, like even before I finish writing the question. Make sure that I can kind of, do you want this kind of cuisine, or do you want this kind of solution? Or are you talking about this kind of, this definition of that word that you're putting in? So that ability to kind of do really good autocomplete and guidance of the search experience before you even hit search. I had an example with Google that I used to show people where if you searched for a movie title, in the drop-down, you had images in the drop-down of the movie, so that you could like have the cover of the cover image of the movie in the prediction text. So they were like the images, the actor names, like all these things were showing up across the search experience in different ways, not only after you hit enter, but even before. And then of course they were also using the same structures in voice search. Like if you asked the movie through an Alexa or through a voice Google search, you would get a very structured reply. And I would use the movie example, and let's say movie has 10 main actors, it would just rotate the top and give you a top 3. Like it would just give you, it wouldn't give you the same 3 if there were 10 equally billed actors. It would just cycle through them, and it would say, okay, well, this movie was directed by this person, came out in this year, so we got 3 concepts right there. And then it had actor, and actor. So there was, even in the voice response, there was a little structure, and then it would dose in little concepts from the graph in the voice response. So in Google, that's Google going back, as I was saying, 20 years. We started seeing the graph come through in the search.
That functionality might be a little more recent than 20 years. Yeah.
So we started going we've been going that direction. But let's talk in paradigms.
Well, let's pause there real quick, because I think that's actually a really important paradigm.
Okay.
The progression that it allows, because of the flexibility, the ability to layer on different aspects of like structure and semantics to create different phrasing in the voice commands, different pieces of the actual search bar, different chunks of the interface. So I think organizations that want something that's going to evolve at a lower cost, I think that's actually one of the answers.
Thank you for bringing that up. So I've got clients right now who have this like situation where we want to fix the situation in the data. Like so if they have complexity in the data, they want to like clean that up in the data. And sometimes you can't clean it up in the data because it's just kind of how it is in the data. We talked about this in the previous episode. Sometimes you got to leave the data how it is, and you've got to explain what's going on. And that's a layer above the data.
Right.
So you go, okay, these people call it this, these people call it this. They're never going to switch. They're always going to call it by the word that they call it. We just have to have a translator in the middle that says, okay, when this person says that and that person says the other, that's actually the same thing, which is a feature of graph.
Right.
So you're Patrick, maybe somebody else calls you Patty. I don't know.
My younger, who is the middle sister, is the only person in the world that calls me that. And she calls me that because she thinks it's funny.
I think it's funny too.
Well, we'll leave that there.
Exactly. So the fact that Patrick and Patty are the same person, that's a concept in graph. Like you can say like this thing over here in this database and this thing over here in this database, they may not be described the same way, but they are actually the same thing. That's super useful. And so if you're trying to give people that level of Google search, which has been with us for years, that's graph-based search. Now Google is moving fully into AI-based search on top of their graph. So now their AI is speaking to their graph and providing you answers. So now, like if you're still returning a list of pages and that's it, you're like 2 entire paradigms behind. You're going. That's why we don't have to talk about particular years, but you're now at the paradigm that started shifting. That they started shifting from coming on 2 decades ago.
And so, but like, let's loop this back to the business application of this, because like nobody invests in technologies to be in the latest paradigm. They invest in technologies to accomplish a goal.
Yeah.
Right. And there are places where traditional search works. It's fine.
Sure.
Small content sets, highly uniform sets of information, things that just have a low complexity.
Yeah. If I want to do like an address lookup in the address database, that's fine.
It's totally fine.
100%.
So
I'm never one to advocate for a new tech for its own sake. I will, maybe not all your note lists, like I take this for granted. I know you know this.
Right.
I am not here to like get you on the latest stuff because the latest stuff is cool. You want to be on the no. It's just a matter of the reason that the cutting edge moves is because there was demand. People were finding their answers better in this new paradigm. Google is moving this way not for, I was going to swear there, but not they're not moving this way because for the fun of it. That's the polite phrase. They're moving this way because people find what they want better in these paradigms. And so the question is, at what point do you go, we need to update how we help people find what they want?
Yeah, I think the concept of being fit for purpose for the information experience that is best going to serve your user. Maybe not what they expect. I almost said for what they expect, but I think about some of our customers that are more in like traditional hardware, traditional manufacturing, and their users expect a list of pages that link to a list of PDFs, which are just long sets of pages.
Okay. Now, please.
But
please.
so they do expect that.
Yes.
That's not what serves them best.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So that's the distinction that I wanted to make there.
Yeah.
Like user expectation is not equivalent to what best serves your user. And I think it's incumbent upon, especially information development teams, to think through the ROI and experience, right?
Yeah.
So like obviously like you're not going to invest as much money as Google has invested for their quality cert pages.
No.
You never get your money back, right? And you go out of business in the process. But there's something between.
That said, I literally 2 days ago came off a meeting where the executive said, "Just make it like Google." Like that.
Did you say $1 billion?
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, so that is from the executives. They are like, make it like Google. Like, why do you keep giving me excuses? Google can do it. Go do it. I know that's ridiculous, but going in the googly direction, I completely agree with what you're saying about expectations. So this is where I'll square the circle. Is that on the one side you've got these people who, like, if I go into certain websites, like when I go on the government website. I was helping my mom remotely.
Which government? We're in Spain.
Canadian.
I'm from Canadian.
Canadian government. I was helping her replace her passport, and I was like, I wanted to light the government on fire. I'm like, I can't believe that her tax dollars are going for this website. Did it match my expectations? It was actually not that far. My expectations were pretty low. It was even lower than that, but my expectations were pretty low. So I agree completely. You can get in fact, customer satisfaction, one of the reasons we don't talk about CSAT anymore, customer satisfaction, is because if the user's expectations were low, you can get great satisfaction scores because you satisfied the crap expectations I had. So that it's not a good rubric. We're moving on to customer effort score. You go, was this a lot of work for you? And they go, yeah, actually it was a lot of work. I expected it was going to be a lot of work. So I'm like,
right.
Yeah. tick the box, but it was not helping me. So if you have complex search and complex content, or if you have multiple sources of content and you think each search is actually simple, but you're ignoring the fact that the person has to do 7 of them to get to their end result, then you actually have a complex search and you are holding people back, and that's a waste of money, a waste of brand equity, etc. So there's complexity, and then we talked about scale. There's just, if you just have so much information, you may need to narrow it down. This is both, again, for humans and AIs. The more scale you have, the more danger you have of AI screwing it up because they're not very good.
Well, so in the scale piece, I think the thing that has been a helpful paradigm for me is that in almost all circumstances, people, or AI too, they're looking for the same size of content. They want the piece of content that's, this big, right? Mm-hmm. That answers their question. And the reality with scale is that the complexity of delivering that piece of content goes up as the relative size of that content changes. So if you only have 4 pieces,
say that again?
The thing that scale brings in is the complexity of delivering that piece of content goes up relative to the relative size. So if you have
the bigger the haystack, the more complex to find the needle.
Right. You figure you have 4 pieces of content total.
Yeah.
And they want one of them. You don't even need a search. You could just put all 4 on the screen and let them read them.
Yeah.
That would be a totally sufficient fit for purpose information experience.
Yeah.
But if that content relative to the haystack is a tiny pixel in a million piles of different things, think about the sophistication of the system you need to zero in on that one thing and give them back that piece of information.
Okay.
And that's like where, millions and millions of documents can't fit in one system. So now we need connectivity. Inside of the connectivity, we can't just have search indexes because we have too many pieces of information we have to filter further. We need metadata. We need to be able to understand relationships because there's almost no single shot, one hop down to that level of granularity. So it's the expansion of the set that drives the necessity for more sophisticated tools to narrow the set.
I'll disagree with one of your key points there.
Okay.
I get very frustrated when people, especially in TechCom, talk about we're just trying to help the person find the answer. I said it earlier, but you got quite concrete, like the piece of content. Like let's say it's a half a page, whatever, the answer of the row in the table. I know many people in this industry who we're very big on that paradigm. Help me find my answer, get on with my job. It's very tempting to think about that. You and I have a common client we have a client who doesn't want to do that. They're not looking for an answer. They're looking for a dashboard of relationships between 50 types of content. They're saying, okay, I've got these product features that are going to be released. I have these product features which are live. I have these product features which I'm using. And these are the things I'm thinking about doing to my installation. And I want you to show me, based on that, everything that's going to happen, what the current state of affairs is, and what changed in the last 3 months. And that's the answer to my question.
Okay, I think we're going to quibble on semantics here.
No, so that's not a piece of content that exists anywhere. So we come back to the Google thing.
But it's multiple pieces of content that exist somewhere.
That have been brought together to create an answer. It was not a human-authored thing.
Right, but I think my point is that
that result is still about that big.
Yeah, you just have multiple versions of that, or multiple pieces of results.
Okay, so you're saying that I, as a human, want to ingest a small amount of information as the answer. The question is, how do we pull that together?
Right. How do we select and present that?
Okay, so I'm still glad that I did the clarification because I don't know because it's a difference. And so when you're thinking about as a TechCom person, are they looking for a topic? Are they looking for something that a human wrote? Are they looking for a paragraph or table in a row? Or are they looking for how does this fit into the relationship between my situation, my configuration, where it is in its maintenance cycle, how many users I have? There's so many parameters that could come together to alter that to say, okay, now what is the right answer for this person? Not what is the right page or the right module or component, but what is the right assembly composite for their needs.
Fully agree. And I think the other thing that the example you're articulating is that information seeking isn't always active. So somebody simply logging into an interface, modern interfaces are predictive. And that person doesn't go and run a search for the things that are coming. They expect the system to know that they are going to want to know that piece of information and therefore predict that they should be shown that information upon logging in.
For me, that comes back to when I'm on the phone with a business and I'm talking to my bank and I do security, or my phone company do security clearance, and they say, oh, we'll have to pass you over to X department, and I have to go through all the security authorization again. I'm like, you know who I am now. Stop asking me. And we've had the same thing with search.
Right.
Like, okay, I've done this search. You should know my context now. When I put in my next search, remember who I bloody am. Don't start me from zero as if you've never heard of me. And so I think personalization, omnichannel, multiple sources, a lot of scale, and then the complexity of the experience you want to deliver. All these are reasons why you need structure and you need a graph. You should consider a graph. The last example I want to throw into this is then human knowledge. So we've been talking about knowledge management since before I got in this game. Like the whole knowledge management consultants, they were like a punchline for a while.
They're not now?
No, there's no.
I've got a lot of friends who are knowledge management consultants. I'm allowed to make that joke.
Yeah. Okay, so we are now finally have the technologies to make good on some of the knowledge management visions of 30 years ago. Like getting the knowledge of the best available human are available to everybody else.
Yeah.
Knowing what person I have to talk to in the organization. So we were talking about getting out of TechCom. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if it was this episode or another episode, but getting structure out of TechCom. The other place that isn't support knowledge bases or parts catalogs and things like that for structure is knowledge management. Like I work with a lot of pharma companies. They have the equivalent of a sales engineer. So a sales engineer is a person who understands the technology that they're selling. Yeah. So rather than a salesperson who knows how to sell, they can actually talk tech to the technical buyer.
Yeah.
In pharma, you have a whole raft of people who work for the pharma company who don't make the drug or sell the drug or market the drug. They know the drug.
Yeah, it's a sales engineer.
It's a sales engineer. So it's like a sales. They don't call them sales engineer. They call them medical science liaisons or something like that. Okay. So it's a doctor or a medically trained person who talks to a doctor. When the doctor wants to ask doctor questions, they don't want to talk to a salesman. They don't want to talk to a marketing person. They want to ask another medically trained person about the real world and knowledge. There's human beings. And so sometimes other people in the organization have a question, or they're putting together information or a package or a presentation, and they're like, oh, who's the person who knows about this ailment in younger populations or in pregnant women or blah, blah, blah. And so coming back to this question, when do you know you might need to think about a graph is, do we need to matrix in who the people are? Mm-hmm. We call Noz when we want to talk about AI, cutting edge search, and structured content. We call Patrick when we want to talk about structured content management systems and delivery APIs. Like having a framework where you can start to add the people in, right, and have the people enter their knowledge directly into the system without having to build a whole new data capture form or something like that.
So this is a thing I've been thinking about for years. And
yes.
It's something that I think we can actually realize in the very near future. And when I say we're
starting to realize it now. Well, I don't know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
So when I say we, I mean both the industry in which we work and also my company. Okay. So I mean it in both those senses. But the holy grail of the people as a part of the graph for me, is the ability to infer expertise from interaction. And what I mean by that is that if I go and I comment on an article, or I write an article, or I'm a reviewer or an approver in a certain circumstance, if you have that information, even if it's not in graph, but it's in semantically tagged content or semantically tagged databases or experiences, whatever it may be. Like if you have metadata, you can create, I was going to say tuples, but you're going to make me define that. So I just mean like if you have that information put together, then you're able to extract or infer that up into graph. And once you've gotten to that point, then you can do selection on it. Yeah. And that gets super, super, super interesting. I don't know how far into this rabbit hole I want to go, because like we do have to answer one more question here before we move on to the really fun argument about the philosophy of AI.
I think we should answer this.
Okay, let's jump out of the rabbit hole.